Life is fragile. Anyone's life can change in a moment. The question for today's story is, what would you do when and if that moment came? How would you respond? Would you turn from your faith, or would you turn towards God? Thankfully, while life is fragile, our God is always faithful. And today, as we wrap up the year of 2021, we share with you an inspirational story of a young man and his family, how they kept their faith in the middle of their battle against the challenges of cancer.
I graduated GCU with a business degree in December 2020, and I was working at Troon Country Club, and I'm going into the golf business to get into the club management. And I was doing wine inventory in mid-January, so just at the club, and one of my coworkers left the cabinet open, and I just nailed my head against it pretty hard. And I was just like really frustrated because I never get headaches or anything like that, and for the next week and a half or so, constant just on and off migraine.
So Austin called me a couple days after he had hit his head at work and said the pain wasn't going away. He was having this bad headache. So, we had talked about concussion, and so he went to urgent care, and they made sure it wasn't a concussion, and they gave him a shot for pain, and then it still really wasn't going away, and so we got him into the ER.
I went to the hospital to go get the head scan, and I was actually supposed to work that day, and I'm like, I have 2 hours. Is there any way you can just get me in? And they're like, yeah, we can get you, no problem. The head scan, get your results way before your shift. So I got the head scan, and they said that just give us 15-20 minutes, and when they came back with the results, they said that they found a small circular shadow on the right side of my brain. It was between a nickel and a quarter size.
And then that's when they did the head scan, and then eventually the MRI to reveal the tumor.
And I was pretty freaked out, I'm not gonna lie. I was stressing because I'm anything in my brain, I'm is this a tumor? I had no idea. And my mind went to some dark thoughts pretty quickly. So anyways, I got the MRI, and yeah, just give us about 20-30 minutes. And in the meantime, I was calling my mom, my dad, and Megan.
So I got a text message from Austin while I was at work, and it said that they found something in his brain, which ended up being the tumor. And then I got another set of text messages that said, please call me as soon as you can.
An hour and a half goes by, and I'm like, man, where are they? Why haven't they told me anything? And then finally, the doctor came in the room, a nurse comes in the room, and then I remember another nurse, and then this other guy in the back, and then the guy in the back closes the curtain, and there were 2 people outside. And I was like, something weird's happening right now. And they're like, hey, and I remember the doctor, stone face, was like, hey, you might want to get your mom on the phone. So anyways, I called my mom, I told her, hey, the doctor has something to tell us. And the guy, the doctor was just basically, so like I said before, we found a small little shadow. Doing a closer look, we believe it might be a tumor. We don't know the significance of the tumor or anything about it, but we do know we need to get you we need to get in an ambulance and go to Osborne Hospital right away to figure out what it is. I was pretty freaked out. And then what made me even more freaked out was he said, that's not the worst of it. And I was like, what could possibly be worse? He's like, we found your blood counts to be super high, and we think that you have leukemia.
Oh, it's probably 7 o'clock at night, and said he did the MRI, and he has a brain tumor. I'm going, my gosh, that's what our worst nightmare was. He had a headache and hit his head. We didn't know what it was, but now they said it's a brain tumor, and she goes, that's not even the worst. He also has leukemia. So, right then, we were just quiet. We just sat on the phone and no words spoke for a while.
I was so shocked And I didn't really, it wasn't processing. I didn't really know how to feel about it. I was shocked, and like, we're young and you wouldn't think like it would happen to somebody that you love or that you know. So it's always a big shocker in the moment. And I remember just like, I couldn't even feel a thing. Like, I felt numb. I completely shut down.
I asked my mom about it, and she said it was kind of like a movie because she was on because she wasn't allowed to be in there because of COVID. So she was on the screen, and I just remember looking at her stone face, and I was looking at the doctor like, in my mind I was just like, am I gonna die? I didn't know what to expect.
And I knew right away, for whatever reason, I guess because I had known people with leukemia, that, you know, this is going to be a marathon. This was not going to be a sprint.
Later that night, I just kind of got off the phone with everybody, and the nurse asked if I wanted to take a shower. I was like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's just, sounds like refreshing, right? And then I just remember getting in the shower and just kind of looking at my arm and how it's hooked up to the IV pole, and just kind of thinking, wow, my life just instantly changed. And I just remember like bawling, starting to cry really hard, and dropping to my knees, just praying to God that I don't know what's happening right now, but I trust you. And I don't know how to handle this, but just please give me peace in some way. Just help me through this, because I mean, I've had a really good life, a very blessed life, and I don't know what's happening right now. And I just remember after that, I got out of the shower and I like, you know, took the fog off of the bathroom mirror, and I just looked in the mirror and I was like, and I just felt this overwhelming peace, you know. I just felt this peace that, man, God's got me and I'm going to be all right, and I have to trust him, because that's the only option I have. Like, I learned very quickly that nothing is in my control, you know? And, you know, you just kind of go through life where you have like a whole plan, right? I was gonna graduate college, I was gonna go into the club business, you know, I was getting my certification for all those things, and I was even supposed to, even had a manager position, you know, up north, you know, for the summer, and everything just kind of got taken away like that. And I was, I just kind of gave it all to him, where it's like, okay, God, this is the situation now, and I trust you. I know it, and it's not even technically like in these doctor's hands, you know, like whatever happens moving forward, if I have to get chemo, if I have a tumor in my brain, whatever it is, like, so it's, you know, you're gonna save me, this is it, you know.
And while treatment was started right away, the pandemic made visiting Austin nearly impossible.
Not being able to physically hug him was probably the biggest struggle in the moment, was not being able to be there in person, and his mom or his dad or anybody to physically be there by his side.
We went down there. The doctor said we could go down there and sat outside the cafeteria window and talk to him over the phone, but through the window. So
I tried to go see if I can see him, but because of COVID, they didn't allow anybody in the building. So everything was over FaceTime, which could get a little frustrating, just trying to go back and forth.
And I wasn't able to see anybody because of COVID. Like, I remember every day, it was really sweet. My fiance Megan would come to the window, and she would be out there, you know, she'd bring me lunch or whatever it was, and we would talk over FaceTime, and that was the only way I was able to see anybody. So I had my mom and dad and friends come out and stuff like that, but it was really hard because, you know, just having somebody in the hospital room with you, you know, just kind of even just sitting there, not even talking, you know, just someone there is really important. I saw it firsthand, just being in, because the bone marrow transplant unit is really blocked off, because these are people with severe leukemia or lymphobia or whatever it is, and they can't, and none of us can see anybody, you know. And I was lucky enough where right when I got there, I didn't have a window view, so I couldn't, like, it's kind of like you're in a prison cell, it feels like, because you can't see anybody. And then I was moved to the other side, I guess I upgraded, and they let me see and then I got the field where people could come visit me, which was big, but it still wasn't the same, because I went a whole month without seeing my mom and dad, you know.
The word was just cruel. You know, I think we'll be reading about people having loved ones during COVID and can't see their loved ones, or be with them, or hold their hand, we'll be reading about that probably for the rest of our life, how many stories there are about that. And I mean, nobody knows what to do in a pandemic. I don't fault anybody for that, but I just say it was cruel. It was a cruel reality of it.
But even while facing the fear of the unknown, they could still see how God's hand was guiding them through this difficult time.
The doctor said we could go down there and sit outside the cafeteria window and talk to him over the phone, but through the window. So we felt real thankful for that, and we went down there, and then the security guard goes, "No, you can't go back there. Nobody's allowed back there." And we're calling Austin, and he's talking to the nurse, and then next thing you know, the head nurse came down and said, what'd she say? That, well,
We're gonna let him.
yeah, we're going to let you come. If my son was having brain surgery, I'd break in too. So she took us up to the room, snuck us in the back way. So that was
a God moment for sure. We were so thankful for that we got to go sit with him the night before.
What really helped me get through this process was pray through everything in every situation. So it's really easy to assume in this situation. It's really easy to worry. It's really easy to stress out. It's really easy to overthink, and I'm a really big overthinker. So to pray through overthinking, pray through assuming, especially in this situation, pray through absolutely every situation was what really helped me pull through.
our first moment of hope was when, after the surgery, the brain surgery, and he FaceTimed us. I mean, since he woke up, he was in ICU, and they gave him his phone, and he was FaceTiming us 10 minutes after brain surgery, which was kind of funny. But the doctor told us that it was in the one spot in the brain that doesn't affect your speech or your movement. They said they've taken that whole portion of the brain out before, and it doesn't affect people. So it was a blessing. The tumor was in that spot of the brain. The chemo doctor said also that any chemo we're giving for leukemia is overkill for the brain tumor. So I think that was our first hurdle. We go, well, that's behind us. We don't have to worry about the brain portion anymore, and now we can just concentrate on the leukemia.
With attention now shifting to fighting the leukemia, hope arrived in the form of a much-needed matching donor.
With the specific leukemia I found out that I was going to need a stem cell transplant, which at first I wasn't really sure what that meant. They said that we're going to look first with your brother and sister to see if they're going to be a cell match. And that was a little bit of a stressful few weeks of waiting, because they preferred to have one of your siblings. And we both found out that my brother and sister were both not. And that was a little discouraging at first, because that made me really, I don't know, I just thought I had this feeling that my brother was going to be a match, and yet end up not being. But they said that we have other options. There's this website called, I believe it's called Be the Match, where we can find for other donors within the database. So I waited a few weeks, and they came back to me and said, hey, we found 7 perfect matches for you.
You're pretty down for a while, but they said, no, there's a bank out there, and we'll find somebody. But then you hear about other people that don't find anybody, and but it came back that had 7 perfect 10 out of 10 matches. I mean, that was a good day when we heard that.
I was at Target, and the doctor was on the phone telling me that not only did he have 1, he had 7. I'll never forget that moment. Elation, gratitude throughout this whole thing. So much gratitude.
While the bone marrow transplant was successful, the struggles continued as Austin faced many other setbacks.
Yeah, when having the transplant, in my mind, I thought I'd have the transplant, I'd get out of the hospital within 3 to 4 weeks, and then be able to move on pretty quickly. But I ended up having like every complication in the book, which is really hard. I got mucositis really bad, which I was on a nutrition bag for a couple weeks, so they had to put me on like 200 milligrams of fentanyl. I got 2 different blood infections, double pneumonia, the BK virus, you name it, I had it. And that was really hard because I just kept on getting put back in the hospital. It's kind of a joke in my family. Every time I get out of the hospital, I wouldn't even make it 2 weeks and get back in. You know, it's like.
The family set up a medication table so Austin could keep track of the 37 prescriptions that he had to take every day.
What's happening, God? Like, I don't understand. I thought I did what I needed to do. But at the same time, I was also really thankful because everything I was having was normal. I was just getting the significant end of it. Like, I was getting the hardest parts of whatever it was. So it's normal to get problems like the GI tract, or it's normal to get GVHD. It's all this stuff I got was normal. So I was thankful that the donor was doing, the cells were working in me, but it was just like, man, I just had to be patient.
100 days after the transplant, a checkup was scheduled to see if the body accepted the new stem cells.
Well, yeah, after the bone marrow transplant on June 2nd, the 100 days, that's what they keep telling us. At the 100-day mark, they'll do a bone marrow biopsy to see how the transplant worked, if it worked or not. And so it's the up and downs all through the summer, but it's kind of a nerve-wracking date. We all knew what the date was and then he went in on actually the 100th day. So we didn't find out for, I think that was late in the week, and so it was over a weekend, and it was, I think you got the call, or Austin went in and he called, came back and told Shelly, and Shelly told me that, his bone marrow and his blood is 100% of the donor, which, that's, that's the greatest day of this whole thing. It worked, so.
Now my blood type and bone marrow is 100% my donor, which is absolutely amazing. And I haven't been in the hospital for 4 months now, which is crazy to think about. Because every time you get put back in there, it's just like, oh gosh, I don't want to be here at all. Like, it's true when they say you recover better at home, and I've only gotten stronger, and I've only gotten more energy throughout this whole process. I'm finally starting to play golf again. I'm not saying it's good, but I'm playing, you know. And I'm also able to do light weights. I do have a blood clot the size of Texas on my right leg, but it is getting smaller, and so my legs are getting stronger slowly, but I just have to be patient. And that's another thing I'm working on every single day, is just, trusting that this is right now and this is going to take up a year and a half of my life, but I'm praying that with the leukemia I had and with getting a transplant, they don't even say like I'm in remission anymore. They say I'm cured from the cancer, which is absolutely amazing. So just gotta be patient with this year and a half. A lot of exciting things to come. I'm getting married in May and get started a new life, and that's, you can't beat that. It makes me really appreciate everything around me so much more.
You think it's just going to be nice and steady and it's just going to get better and better every day, but that's not how it works. There's a lot of up and downs during this process, but we had faith and we knew it. Like Shelly said, it's a long game. It wasn't a sprint, it was a marathon.
They say that which doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That's certainly true when it comes to what Austin Jones has gone through these last several years. Difficult circumstances reveal true character. Your faith, what you believe, is challenged. At the end of the day, do you really believe God is in control, and are you willing to trust Him no matter the outcome?
We didn't know the outcome, but we trusted Him. And we prayed, and with the friends and family, we're a tight family, and we just knew we'd get through it together.
I I think we were always hopeful, always really hopeful. So I think that was more a confirmation of the miracle we were all praying for, but elation. I always say this was a Thanksgiving like I've never had before. You know, we're just living. It's different now, you know. I mean, we just live in a whole nother level of gratitude. And
I'm really excited to see how we can touch other people in any situation, going through any process, or even if it's something similar, not something similar. But I'm really excited to see how God uses our story to impact other people's lives.
It was my faith that really got me through this. The praying, the journaling, the reading, just talking to other people was basically everything in this whole situation for me. And specifically like praying for the trust. You know, everyone can say, like, even when you're not going through a difficult time, it's like, of course I trust God, yeah. And then, but when something like severe happens in your life, dramatically changes, it's like, that's kind of when you get tested, man, do I really trust you right now? And that's something I had to pray through, you know. I had to pray for that peace, I had to pray for that trust now.
you know, all of our relationships with God are stronger. It has to be after you come through something like this. And He will give you peace in a storm, absolutely.
After everything we've been through this last year, I would say I'm personally most excited to just start a life together for sure, and just one, be moved out of my parents' house again, you know? And then also, of course, just start a life with Megan. We keep saying like, man, let's just get to the wedding, and then we can like start over, because that's when my immune system's supposed to be 100% again, and we can just be a normal couple.
Wow, what an incredible story of faith. The Jones family really lived out that story of trust and perseverance and the power of prayer. Two passages come to my mind when I hear their story. One is from the Psalms. David wrote in Psalm 23:4, it says that even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. It's not that God promises us to really abstain from bad things happening to us, but rather that He's going to walk with us through every moment and through every valley until we get to that other side. It's the very presence of God that gives us the power to fight and have perseverance and to really will into that next day, that next choice, that next battle. And that while we are here on this earth and we face the difficulties of this life, we can take our strength from a spiritual, eternal strength, because we have a God who fights battles. We have a God who comes down to earth, who experienced suffering, so He knows what we're going through, and then He promises to be with us every step of the way. That promise that David shares in Psalm 23:4 doesn't just remain in the Psalms, but rather Jesus, He uses those same words, that same idea to give comfort and courage to the disciples. Right before He leaves the earth at the end of the Gospels in Matthew 28, He gives what's known as the Great Commission. He says, all authority on heaven and earth has been given to me, and therefore go and make disciples, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey all that I've commanded you. And the reason He can give this great commission, the reason He can give this great challenge is because of the very next part of that verse, in which He says, for I am with you to the end of the age. Coming out of the Christmas story and the Christmas season, as we transition into this new year, let us not forget the very name of God is Emmanuel, which means God with us. And if God is with us in the holidays, if God is with us in the new season, in the new year, then we can know and we can trust that God will be with us even in our valleys. And that, my friends, is enough. So know that we are praying for you here at Mission Grove Church. We hope that you have a great rest of 2021. And I encourage you and challenge you to join us back in person as we gather on Sunday, January 2nd at Wildfire Elementary School at 9 and 10:30 a.m. as we launch a brand new series in the new year entitled All Things New. God bless, Happy New Year, and we'll see you next Sunday.